Hey everybody, I decided to do number 2 this week, the failure to complete an analysis, and I have a personal story to share with you. So, 2014, they brought a whole bunch of, ACT and the Department of Ed for Wyoming brought a whole bunch of people together, counselors, educators, to decide what the cut score for ACT would be. So at the time, this was when ACT was being written into law for the state of Wyoming that juniors had to take it. And on a side note, what a great move on ACT's part. So it's now part of the Wyoming law that you have to take ACT. So you also saw a sharp spike in how much the ACT cost after that because try to tell try to tell Wyoming citizens that they can't give the ACT anymore because it's written into law when you hike up the price. So it's just brilliant corporate play and kudos to ACT. Anyway, so I was part of this committee to adopt cut scores. And if you want to go read more about it, here is the citation or source, and you can go Wyoming Department of Ed. But essentially, we got together and decided we're going to come up with these lofty new goals for Wyoming students. And on page 50 of our text this week, there's 3 things that we did not do as part of this community. So the first one was the characteristics of the classes and facilities that would go with this new instruction. No one cared. So we sat down and said, hey, 18 for an English score, we want Wyoming kids to get a 21. 21 shows that they'll get a C or better in college, and that's where we need to go. Well, what's funny about that is, where's the funding going to go with that? So you're gonna take this nationally normed test and say, now we want to add 3 points onto that, and with no funding and no other facility. Like, it wasn't just going to happen. It was going to happen across the board. So whether or not you lived in Kemmer, Wyoming, Aladdin, Wyoming, or Casper, Wyoming, you now had to increase your English score of your juniors by 3 points. So that was bummer 1. 2, the characteristics of the school system organization in which the new instruction will take place was hilarious because ACT showed up for this 2-day event and kind of just sat back, and at the end, the committee decided that the cut score for English would be 21. The cut score for science would be something like 27. It was almost impossible. It's laughable today. And then the cut score for math was 21 or something, 23 or something. And ACT stands up at the end. They listened for 2 days straight and said, well, thanks to everybody for your work. You realize this is a nationally normed test, and you're saying that your 2 days of work is better than the cut scores we set on a national level. Thanks for your time. And it was way more articulate than I'm being, but it was comical. And so no one really looked at what the organization or the characteristics of the school system. So the system specifically for ACT was, we do this on a scale of millions of kids, and little old Wyoming with your maybe 100,000 is a suburb of a school district that we serve on a national level. So it was very, at the time it was like, oh, okay, I wonder what they mean, but it was good, well done. And then the final one, the philosophy and the taboos of the larger community, we're saying that what ACT does nationally doesn't fit for Wyoming. No one got it at the time, and we all left high-fiving each other. But what's really funny is another source for you here. It is a great source at the secondary level, but it actually breaks down what each standard is and what you should do to get that level on the ACT and what you should do for the next level. We didn't even really look at that, but it was seriously something we should have looked at, because what we were saying with math was that kids had to start taking like pre-calc as freshmen. So again, it was one more piece of evidence that we could have sat down and gone, the larger philosophy is, we're going to start teaching pre-calc as freshmen? What does that do to the rest of the system? So anyway, ACT and the state of Wyoming, to kind of put a bow on it for you, said, good job, committee. We're going to come up with a set of scores. And again, you can go to this site and look up the scores if you want. But they scaled the scores down. So in the state of Wyoming, we don't have a cut score like you've got to get a 21. They gave it a 3-digit code to kind of circumvent that whole committee work. And they do acknowledge, they're like, we had this committee and they did a great job, and we decided to work with WD to take that 2-digit score and make it a 3-digit score. And here you go. And completely using rhetoric to kind of hide the fact of, we didn't listen to you, and it's still what we said it would be. Anyway, it was a great opportunity for me to learn more about performing analysis, and this was years and years ago, but I remember it very vividly because I was so naive. Thanks. Hope you're all having a great week, and I'll see you in the comments.